If you were to take a step back, and I mean way back, and look at the entire map of Islamic history, there is this one massive fault line.
It's the defining divide, really.
Right. It's this crack in the foundation that just runs through, 14 centuries of empires, theology, culture, everything.
And if you trace that crack all the way down, past the modern politics, past the medieval wars, it leads to the doorstep of a single household in Medina.
We're talking, of course, about Ali ibn Abi Talib. And it's wild to me that you can look at one historical figure and see two completely different realities.
Complete.
To half the world, he's this tragic, noble statesman who, tried and failed to save a crumbling empire. And to the other half, he's a cosmic figure, divinely appointed, infallible, the rightful owner of a stolen crown.
It really is the ultimate fork in the road moment for the faith. You cannot understand the difference between Sunni and Shia, not just politically, but spiritually, without grappling with Ali. He is the pivot point.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to wade right into the first fitna. And I love that historians call it the first civil war. It sounds so clinical.
Yeah, like it's just a military event.
But reading these sources you sent over, this feels more like a Shakespearean family tragedy.
It absolutely is a tragedy. But before we dive in, we have to acknowledge the difficulty here. The sources are, they're a minefield.
Right. You've got 1,400 years of sectarian storytelling just layered on top of the actual history.
Piled on top. So we need some ground rules.
We're not here to pick a winner.
Exactly. We are historians today. We're going to look at the Sunni view, which is all about consensus and merit. Then the Shia view, which emphasizes, lineage and divine designation.
And then layer on the modern analysis, which tries to figure out the structural forces at play.
That's the plan.
Okay, let's get into it. To understand why the Muslim community fractured, we have to go back to the source, the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632 CE, because everything hinges on one question. Did he or did he not name a successor?
A simple question with an incredibly complex answer. And if you look at the sources, the whole debate centers on this one specific event that happened just a few months before the Prophet died. It's called Ghadir Khumm.
This scene is so vivid in the accounts. They're returning from the farewell pilgrimage, thousands of people, scorching desert heat, and the Prophet stops the entire caravan at this pool, Ghadir Khumm.
Gathers everyone, calls Ali up to this makeshift pulpit.
And he raises Ali's hand in front of this massive crowd and makes a declaration. And the phrase he uses is crucial. In Arabic, he says,
Man kuntu mawlahu fa harhadu liyum mawla.
Whoever I am his mullah, Ali is his mullah. And the entire geopolitical split of the Middle East, you could argue, come down to the definition of that one word.
That one word, mawla. It's a linguistic dispute that became a chasm.
So let's break it down. On one side, the Shia perspective seems pretty clear-cut.
For the Shia, context is everything. Their argument is, why would the Prophet stop thousands of people in the burning sun, delaying their journey home, just to say, hey, Ali's my buddy?
Right.
In that context, they argue Mawlula has to mean master, leader, or lord. They see it as an explicit divine designation. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a coronation.
But the Sunni linguists, they look at the exact same word and see something totally different.
Well, in Arabic, Mawlula is what's called a polysemous word. It has dozens of meanings. It can mean master, yes, but it also means friend, ally, supporter, kinsman.
So what's their context?
The Sunni narrative context is that there had been some grumbling in the ranks about Ali. He was very strict, very disciplined about distributing spoils of war, and some soldiers had complained about him on a recent expedition.
So the Sunni view is that this was more of a character reference. Like the Prophet saying, hey, stop complaining about Ali. He's my kinsman. If you support me, you support him.
That is the interpretation, yes. A call for love and loyalty, not a transfer of political power. And most Western academics, people like Watt or Madeline, they tend to take a middle road.
How so?
They'll say the phrase is authentic, it definitely happened, but they argue it was probably ambiguous. It wasn't a legally binding contract for rule, not at the time anyway.
Which explains why, when the Prophet actually dies a few months later, there isn't this immediate, unanimous move to put Ali in charge.
Exactly.
And this brings us to the scene at Saqifa. This is that split screen moment you talked about.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Because on one side of town, in the Prophet's house, you have Ali. He's literally washing the Prophet's body for burial. It's intimate, heartbreaking, it's family. And then on the other side of town,
at the meeting hall of the Banu Sayyida clan, the political sharks are circling.
Yeah.
That's Saqifa. The leaders of the Ansar, the Medinans, and the Muhajirun, the Meccan migrants, are panicking. They're terrified of a power vacuum. They think if they don't pick a leader right now, the tribes will break away and the whole Islamic project just collapses.
But Ali isn't there. He's not in the room.
No, he's completely occupied with the funeral, fulfilling his duty to the family. So while he's mourning, the tribal elders argue, they debate, and they eventually elect Abu Bakr as the first caliph.
So by the time Ali finishes and emerges, it's a fait accompli.
The deal is done.
I can't imagine how that must have felt. Even if you don't believe in the divine appointment, just on a human level, the prophet's cousin and son-in-law being completely bypassed while you're burying him.
It certainly felt like a betrayal to Ali and his supporters. They felt the process was rushed, exclusionary, and this leads to the controversy of the Bay'ah.
The Pledge of Allegiance.
Right, and this is another huge point of contention.
The Sunni narrative is usually that, okay, Ali was upset, sure, and he delayed pledging for a while, maybe 6 months, but eventually he did it voluntarily for the sake of unity.
He put the community above his own ego. That's the consensus narrative.
But the Shia sources.
The Shia sources paint a much, much darker picture. They describe coercion. They have accounts of Omar, who'd become the second caliph, coming to Ali's house with armed men.
And this is where the story of Fatima's house comes in, isn't it? The threat to burn the door down.
Yes. Ali's wife, Fatima, the prophet's only surviving daughter, was inside. The Shia view holds that the stress and trauma of this confrontation actually led to her miscarriage and then her death shortly after.
That is a heavy, heavy difference.
So for Shias, Ali didn't just preserve unity, he was the victim of a coup. He only gave in to prevent the total destruction of Islam from within.
So he ends up in the political wilderness.
Yeah.
And I think people gloss over this part. He waits for a long, long time.
24 years. A lifetime in politics back then.
He watches Abu Bakr rule, then Omar, then Uthman. What is he even doing during all this time?
He's the old guard. He's judging legal cases, he's advising the caliphs when they ask, but he's fundamentally outside that inner circle of power.
And he's watching the empire change.
He's watching the wealth of Persia and Byzantium pour into Medina. He's seeing a simple desert community turn into a massive, wealthy empire. And he's seeing the corruption that comes with that money.
And that corruption eventually causes the dam to break. In 656 CE, Uthman, the third caliph, is assassinated.
And this isn't a foreign enemy. These are Muslim rebels climbing the walls of his house in Medina.
And this is the moment the first fitna really ignites.
Oh, yes. Uthman is killed in his own home. There's chaos in the streets. The city is controlled by these rebels. And in that panic, the crowd turns to Ali. They basically beg him to take the caliphate to restore order.
It's so ironic. He finally gets the position he might have felt was his 30 years ago, but he's not inheriting a golden age.
He's inheriting a burning building, a mutiny, and his very first decision creates the conflict that defines the rest of his life.
Which was?
The Umayyads, Uthman's powerful clan, demand that Ali punish the killers immediately. Heads on spikes, essentially. But the killers, well, they represent a huge chunk of Ali's own support base. They're the ones who put him in power.
So he's in an impossible bind. If he punishes them, he loses his army and probably his life.
And if he doesn't, he looks like an accomplice to murder.
Which leads directly to the Battle of the Camel.
Okay.
And I want you to just pause and think about how shocking this event is. You have the Caliph Ali taking the field of battle. And on the other side,
Aisha, the prophet's widow.
the mother of the believers.
Yes. Along with Talha and Zubair, two of the most famous companions of the prophet. It is literally the prophet's family and his best friends killing each other. It was a trauma the community had never experienced.
Yeah, the sources are fascinating because both sides claim the moral high ground. Aisha isn't fighting for power exactly, she's fighting for kisas.
Retribution. She sees Ali's delay as a failure of justice.
And Ali sees himself as the legitimate head of state putting down Baghi rebellion. His logic is, I'm the caliph. You can't take the law into your own hands. We need stability first, then we can have justice.
And he wins the battle. But what's striking is his reaction. He doesn't execute the leaders. He treats Aisha with immense respect, sends her back to Medina with an escort.
So how do the different traditions view that?
Well, Sunni scholars call this a tragic error of judgment ijtihad. They say both sides meant well but got trapped in a spiral of violence. Shias, of course, see it differently. Fighting the legitimate imam is a grave sin, period.
But the Battle of the Camel was just the warm-up act.
It was. The main event is against Muawiyah, the Battle of Siffin. And this feels less like a misunderstanding and more like a clash of two completely different political philosophies.
That's the best way to frame it. You have Ali, who represents this kind of prophetic, charismatic leadership.
Yeah.
He's principled, rigid, uncompromising. He refuses to bribe tribal leaders because it's corruption.
He refuses to play the game.
And on the other side, you've got Muawiyah, the governor of Syria, Uthman's cousin.
Muawiyah is the ultimate pragmatist. He's a master administrator. He's wealthy, patient, and he knows how to build coalitions. He represents traditional pragmatic politics. While Ali is worrying about the purity of the law, Muawiyah is worrying about the stability of the state.
So they meet at Siffin. And by all accounts, Ali is winning.
His general, Malik al-Ashtar, is crushing Muawiyah's flank. The war is almost over. And then the trick.
The Quran's on the spears.
Yes, it's such a striking image.
Muawiyah's troops realize they're losing, so they hoist pages of the Quran on their spear points and shout, "Let the book of God judge between us."
It was a stroke of absolute genius. Ali knew it was a deception. He told his men, "I know these people, they are not men of the Quran. Keep fighting. They're just trying to save themselves."
But his army froze. Why?
Piety. And this is where we have to talk about the Quran.
The readers of the Quran.
Right. A powerful block in Ali's army. Not just soldiers. They were religious zealots who had memorized the text. To them, the Quran was everything. When they saw the holy book raised, they couldn't bring themselves to strike it down.
So they threatened him.
They literally threatened to kill Ali if he didn't stop the battle and accept arbitration.
So he's defeated not by the enemy, but by the piety of his own supporters.
Precisely. He's forced to negotiate. And the arbitration itself, talk about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Ali wanted to send a sharp negotiator. His army insisted on sending Abu Musa, who was pious but politically naive.
And Muawiyah sent Amr ibn al-As.
Probably the smartest, slipperiest politician in all of Arabia.
And the story goes that Amr tricked Abu Musa into agreeing to depose both leaders. Abu Musa stands up, deposes Ali. Then Amr stands up and says,
"I agree with deposing Ali, and I confirm Muawiyah," a diplomatic ambush. It didn't end the war, but it legitimized Muawiyah as a political equal. It shattered Ali's claim to be the sole leader.
But worse than the political loss, it caused the fracture that would eventually kill him.
The courage aids. And this part of the story feels terrifyingly modern.
It really does.
These were the same quota, the same pious soldiers who forced Ali to stop fighting. But when the arbitration went bad, they turned around and said, "Wait a minute, you accepted the judgment of men? Judgment belongs only to God."
La hukma illallah.
That was their slogan. They developed this new theology that said, if you commit a grave sin, you are no longer a Muslim. And by negotiating, Ali had committed a grave sin. Therefore,
Ali was an apostate. That is a terrifying psychological pivot. They went from his most ardent supporters to wanting him dead because he did exactly what they demanded he do.
it's the logic of purity spirals. They believed they were the only true Muslims left. They declared takfir on everyone else and started killing civilians, anyone who disagreed with them.
So Ali has to fight them. He crushes them at the Battle of Nahrawan. But you can't kill an ideology with a sword.
No, the survivors went underground. They wanted revenge. And that leads us to 661 CE. A Kharijite named Ibn Muljam heads to the mosque in Kufa with a poisoned sword.
It was a coordinated plot, wasn't it? They tried to get Muawiyah and Amr at the same time.
Yes, the plan was to purify the Islamic world by decapitating the leadership of all three factions. But Muawiyah survived, Amr survived, only Ali was struck.
And that moment,
Yeah.
it just transforms him. He stops being a struggling politician and becomes something eternal.
It marks the end of the Rashidun era, the rightly guided caliphs, but symbolically it creates the supreme martyr. For the Shia, his death confirms the world was too corrupt for a divine leader. For Sunnis, he becomes the tragic hero who tried to hold the line against chaos.
But the Umayyads Muawiyah's dynasty, they didn't let him rest in peace. This part of the history really shocked me. The cursing.
It is shocking, and it's crucial for understanding the anger that persists today. Once Muawiyah was in power, he instituted a state policy. For 60 years, it was mandatory to curse Ali and his family from the pulpits during Friday prayers.
Imagine that, going to your mosque every Friday and hearing the state-sanctioned cursing of the Prophet's own family as part of the service for 2 generations.
It was psychological warfare, designed to erase Ali's legacy. But it backfired completely. This institutionalized hatred is what crystallized the Shia identity. It drove Ali's supporters underground, gave them a narrative of persecution, and it hardened the sectarian divide into something permanent.
And it wasn't until Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz, the one Umayyad everyone seems to like, that it finally stopped.
But by then, the damage was done. The split was calcified. The political schism had become a theological one.
So looking at the legacy today, we have these two Alis.
We do. There's a Sunni Ali, the fourth caliph, the line of God, pious, brave, but fallible, man of consensus. And then there's the Shia Ali, the first imam, infallible, the Masum, the holder of esoteric knowledge.
But there's a third one, isn't there? The one that kind of bridges the gap.
It's the Sufi Ali. This is fascinating. Almost all Sufi orders, whether they're Sunni or Shia, trace their spiritual lineage back to Ali. They call him the Wali, the saint of saints. He is the gate to the city of knowledge.
So even within Sunni Islam, among the mystics, he has this almost superhuman station. And we can't talk about his mind without mentioning the Nahj al-Balagha.
The peak of eloquence, a collection of his sermons and letters. If you want to know why Ali is revered as an intellectual, you have to read his letter to his governor for Egypt, Malik al-Ashtar. It's basically a manual on just governance.
I read that section you highlighted. It sounds incredibly modern.
It is. There's a famous line where he tells Malik, people are of two types, either your brother in faith or you're equal in humanity.
You're equal in humanity. That's powerful.
He talks about economic justice, protecting the weak, how a ruler is a servant of the people. It's so profound that the United Nations actually cited it in a report on good governance in the Arab world.
It sounds like Ali was trying to apply strict Islamic idealism to the gritty, dirty reality of politics.
And that is the modern historical assessment. Historians classify Ali as a transformational leader, high moral authority, clear vision. But they rate him lower as a transactional leader.
The ability to make deals, compromise, build coalitions.
Right. So Muawiyah was the better politician.
Without a doubt.
Muawiyah was the superior politician. He built an empire. But Ali was the superior ethical figure. He refused to compromise his principles just to keep his power.
And he paid for it with his life. He represents the road not taken. What would Islamic history look like if governance had remained purely principled instead of becoming dynastic and pragmatic?
That's the great what if of history. We'll never know.
So bringing this all to today, why does a split from 1400 years ago still matter so much?
Because Ali has become the ultimate symbol. He is the mirror everyone looks into. When the Iranian Revolution happened, they invoked Ali as the revolutionary fighting tyranny. When modern reformists talk social justice, they quote Ali's letter to Malik. Even secular Arab nationalists have claimed him as an Arab hero.
So the flexibility of the symbol is its power.
Precisely. Whether you see him as the rightful imam who was wronged, or a tragic caliph who couldn't hold back the tide of history, you cannot grapple with the questions of authority, justice, or legitimacy in Islam without grappling with Ali.
It really puts the deep in deep dive. It's a story of how a single life can define a civilization.
It never stops being relevant.
I want to leave you with a thought that came to me while reading the end of these notes. You know, we always hear that history is written by the victors. And politically, Muawiyah won. He established the dynasty. He ruled for decades. But today, 14 centuries later, Ali is the one who is quoted. Ali is the one who is revered with a passion that Muawiyah never achieved. It makes you wonder, in the very long game of history, who actually won.
That's the question.
Something to chew on. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the first fitna. We'll catch you on the next one.